Hey Muffins, I've got a subscriber request for the Panther, the tier 7. Now, if you haven't seen your request yet, I apologize. I'm trying to get caught up. I may have to purchase a tank back. But if there's something you're struggling with the game, I've got a tips and tricks playlist. Shoot over there. Hopefully there's something that can help you out. So diving right into the Panther. Now, the Panther is a tank that doesn't have the greatest amount of armor. First off, knowing your role, you're a medium tank. So you have to, right at the beginning of the game, get yourself in a position that you can spot the enemy. You can help give yourself eyes on where some of them are at the beginning. And that's also going to help not only you be able to make decisions on what to do, where to go next, and approaching and attacking your enemy, but also your team. They'll know how to position themselves much quicker, giving you guys the advantage sooner than the enemy if you can fulfill that spotting role right at the beginning. So the other thing about the Panther, kind of going back into what I was saying in terms of it not having a lot of armor, is you have to use a lot more. And you'll notice in these two replays, I stay very tightly to using the landscape for my armor. I use that landscape to protect myself as much as possible, along with before exposing myself to pop out and get a shot off the enemy, is using that third person view just to see what's going on around a corner or to see where the enemy is pointing their cannon before I just pop out and then take that shot. Just because the Panther doesn't have a lot of armor doesn't mean it's not a very capable tank. You'll see in these two replays it's very capable. It has a great cannon. You have some gun depression, but not a lot. It's accurate. You've got a good DPM. And so I'm trying to track this IS as he's kind of gone up the hill. The other thing about the Panther is that even being in this position, using this rock off to my left, that LTTB that got up the hill could have easily put me in a really bad spot. And if he would have kept popping out and put me in a situation for us to do a damage exchange, that would have not been good, considering all of our heavies went over to the other side of the map. So using this, I used my third person view, waited for that SU. Now, I didn't even know he's really behind me, but I think he was just aggressively pushing it because their team's falling apart. But I used that third person view, waited for him to shoot, and then I knew what his reload was like. He's got a longer reload, so I popped out and was able to get these continuous shots off him. So going back to the LTTB being up on that hill, if he would have been continually popping out, the lack of support on that hill, and the enemy would have been pushing more up into that position, I would have needed to get out of there as quick as possible. So one of the things about the Panther that you have to be very conscientious of is you have to know, it's almost more important to know when to disengage rather than re-engage. And I talk about this if you've watched my other tips and tricks videos on this. But if their entire enemy would have been rushing that enemy hill, I would have got out of there super fast, because we just looking at the map and understanding where my team was, where the enemy was, it just would have been a really, really bad position for me. And so thinking a couple steps ahead of the enemy and being able to make those calls to get out, reconvene with your team. And it's okay to do that if you're not necessarily sure what to do, or you know you're going to be in a dangerous situation or in a bad spot. Just go back with your team, reconvene, look for another area that you can move up to and spot, and then make decisions from there based on the spotting, where your team is and where your enemy is. So even at the beginning of this replay, I put myself right at the beginning to make sure I was getting myself in a spot that I could potentially spot enemies. Now, they all went to this one side of the map, and the Panthers got good accuracy, but I don't necessarily want to try to snipe. But you'll notice even when I get spotted, I'm trying to stay behind the rocks. I'm using the landscape for my protection. And even with this guy, when he ends up spotting me next, I immediately try to roll back down and get behind the landscape to give myself some cover. So using the Panther is very so much a tank. Once again, you need to use the landscape, but also more importantly is making sure you're continually putting yourself in a position where your team can have eyes on you so they can support you in case you get in trouble. Or if your team just sucks, then they can at least be there for somewhat of an intimidation factor, and then you be in view range of them so that you can both support each other. Now, this coming up on here is a pretty risky situation. So I know there's an SU behind me. If he were to get a shot off my rear, that would have absolutely deleted me. But looking at the map, knew he was distracted from some of my teammates, and just pushing up here. You don't want to ever get yourself in a situation to really rely on your armor because you don't really have any. But just because we're much more in a position to win, our team's aggressively pushing here, just in a good place, was able to be a little bit more aggressive. So anyway, hope that helped. This is the Muffin here. Stay cool and keep tanking.